Last May, a small cement company just 4 years old poured a new kind of cement for a sidewalk on the Boston waterfront. A camera crew was there, and the event made a 3-minute story on the local news.
Sublime Systems is mixing things up, creating a new process to make low-carbon cement.
The star of the story was Leah Ellis. Leah has a PhD in electrochemistry and did her postdoctoral fellowship at MIT. She started a cement company, Sublime Systems, to make what she calls the electric vehicle of cement.
This is a really exciting day. It's my first time seeing Sublime cement being poured in the field. So very cool to see it going from, something in your head to seeing people use it and hearing them talk about it.
I'm Gernot Wagner, a climate economist at Columbia Business School. I keep a close eye on companies that are finding solutions to climate change. When you think of industries causing the most pollution, you probably don't think of the cement industry, but it's a massive polluter. Cement is responsible for 8 to 10% of all greenhouse gas emissions. But Leah Ellis says Sublime Systems can remake the entire industry. I'm curious, can it? Today I'm in Boston to meet Leah at Sublime Systems Lab. I asked her to tell me why industry standard Portland cement is such a major polluter.
Today's Portland cement is made in a big rotary kiln, so that is like a rolling tube, and this tube is enormous. You could comfortably drive a school bus down the middle, and it's tilted a little bit and it's rolling, and on one end you put the limestone and the other minerals, and then the other end you have pulverized coal and oxygen and other fuels, and that other end is around 1500 degrees Celsius, and so the rocks are getting cooked as they meet this enormous flame. It's loud, it's obscenely hot, it's like looking into the bowels of hell. So 50% of cement CO2 emissions is from the limestone emissions, and the other 50% is from the fossil fuel and the combustion needed to heat the raw materials to these extraordinary temperatures to make Portland cement.
And what does Sublime do differently?
Sublime avoids both those sources of CO2 emissions. So we avoid the limestone emissions because our process does not require limestone, and our process is driven by electrochemistry.
Sublime cement isn't made by melting rocks in hot kilns. Instead, Sublime makes cement by electrically charging a pool of chemicals to release calcium from rocks. Calcium is a key ingredient in cement. So instead of 1,000 plus degrees centigrade, you have under 100?
Exactly, it's under 100 degrees, and that makes it very easy to run with renewable energy.
Okay, so can you break this down? So this is literally the solar panel on top of the factory?
That's right, so we could use any type of energy.
Now, the standard cement making process is 12,000 years old. How do you become the first person to revolutionize that? Was nobody else looking?
Sublime's technology will be obvious in retrospect, but the reason why it has never been done like this before is because electricity has never been so abundant nor so cheap. But it's really when you start to see renewable energy becoming abundant and cheap, then it all becomes obvious.
The rapid decline in the cost of renewable energy, mainly solar and wind, is why electricity is so cheap and abundant. Leah says that's why there is a golden opportunity to replace old fossil fuel technology. Demand for cement is soaring, especially in countries like India and China, which means the industry is going to be building a lot of new plants.
Cement plants typically last 50 years, but those plants eventually have to be closed down. So here in the US, we've got about 100 cement plants. The average age of these plants is like 50 years old. So they're reaching their natural turnover lifetime. And so we want those cement plants in the coming decades to be built with Sublime's technology because they will avoid those CO2 emissions for decades to come.
But the problem with Sublime's technology is that, right now at least, it's expensive. That's true for nearly every new high-tech startup. So you just described to me sort of the plot for world domination, right? So where do you stand on the cost side?
Of course, it's very difficult for a new technology, especially one that hasn't had 200 years of getting to scale and efficiency, to compete on cost on day one. there is a path for us to reach cost parity. It will take time. Just like how EVs got near $100 a kilowatt hour for a battery pack. Like, as a battery person myself, I remember hearing that and thinking like, no way, right?
What does it take? How much money does it take on the one hand? How much time to climb the learning curve, slide down the cost curve, scale this technology?
I mean, depends on how much money people give us, right? But if we had all the money right now, we could have that million ton per year up by 2030. And that's part of my job, is trying to push all these things to go faster. If you gave me $10 billion, I could give you multiple carbon avoiding megaton plants by 2030.
And you're hopeful that you are fast enough to do this?
That's what I'm here for.
In just over 4 years, Sublime has come a long way.
4 years ago, when Sublime spun out of MIT, we were making a sugar cube amount of cement. Now we've got, 2 trucks fulls came to the job site today, so that's really cool. And we're on a trajectory to get to 30,000 ton per year with our first commercial module to be replicated into megaton plants so that we can bring cement making into the post-carbon world.
But Sublime still has a ways to go, and some industry experts aren't sure the construction industry will accept Sublime cement. It looks exactly the same as ordinary Portland cement, but it's not. Because it was made with electrochemistry, not hot kilns, the chemistry of its cement is slightly different. Leah says it's just a matter of time, and soon industry acceptance won't be a problem.
So if you're solving for Portland cement, you're always going to have to go through this high temperature route, which is impossible to electrify efficiently. But the chemistry of Portland cement doesn't actually matter to the people who use the product. They care about the performance, and they talk about cement in terms of strength, slumps, set time, flow, durability. And that's when we realized that we didn't have to solve for making Portland cement.
Okay, so how about this? Portland cement, right? And it took decades to get to where they are today, dominating the industry. We don't have decades on the climate front.
Yeah, I think you're going to see intensifying climate events as we've seen in the past year. I'm worried how uncertain a world will be when there's storms, when, for example, the Atlantic current gets weaker, leading to an imminent ice age in Europe. At some point, bankers and insurers are going to start pricing in these risks, and that's where I think you'll see increased money flowing into clean tech. There's a playbook on how to scale technologies and how to deploy them quickly, so it won't take decades the way it did for Portland cement to almost take 100 years before that really caught on in a widespread way.
So newsflash, right? The next 4 years, there may not be all that much federal money because, you need a guy in charge who believes that climate change is real. So, potential investor, $1 billion, $10 billion. Why invest in Sublime?
All right, you're a billionaire. You have anything that money could buy, but there is nothing like a legacy in the built environment. You look back through the millennia to the pyramids of Giza, to the aqueducts of Rome, not only the physical buildings, but also the materials and the methods of construction that really led to quantum leaps in technology and innovation embodied in the built environment. You can do these things if they're important, if they're necessary. There is no better legacy to be had than in cement, where you have got some of the best scientists and engineers in the entire world working as hard as we possibly can to bring this monumental technology into the future.
Sold.
All right, thank you.